All right, well, today the prosecution and the defense both rested in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, and Combs told the judge that he would not be taking the stand, which was breaking news we brought to you earlier in the day. Closing arguments are up next, and here to discuss what we can expect next is Attorney Rick Detoto. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
When you think about the fact that Diddy decided not to take the stand, was that a smart move on his part, you think?
In my opinion, very smart. There's too much evidence out there that they could cross-examine him with. He would be on the stand for a couple of days, and there's some things that he can't explain, specifically that video. I mean, if I'm a prosecutor, I would spend hours and hours picking apart that video, and it changes the dynamic of the trial. If they think he's not being truthful, the case is over.
Wow. And so what do you think about the case so far and everything that the defense has presented?
So it's really interesting from the RICO standpoint. I don't know if they're going to be able to prove the conspiracy like they would with mob bosses and having a common purpose. It sounds like it wasn't a common person. It wasn't organized. It's just what he liked to do, as sad as that is to say. I think there's going to be problems with a conviction for the second count, but the third counts, I think they might be able to get compelling prostitution across state lines, because I think that was pretty clear in my mind.
And what do you think was the most compelling cross-examination and of what you've heard and what the defense brought?
So sometimes the problem with these cases is, from the prosecution's perspective, they say, this happened, it's gross, it's disgusting, it's sexual, but then we find out that the witnesses wanted to participate in it. And they always come back and say, well, we participated in it because we were forced to. So the jury has to kind of wrestle with those issues and see who they find credible and who they don't. If there is evidence of they wanted to be there, they engaged in it, consensually, that's going to be a problem for the prosecution.
And when you talk about the FBI getting involved, obviously, in confiscating everything that they did and presenting what they did, do you think that they have a huge case when it comes to everything that they're trying to charge Diddy with?
Well, I think the initial arrest warrants and the seizures at their house were a big show. They were trying to make a big deal out of it. They have a celebrity, and there's probably a federal prosecutor out there that's trying to make a name for himself. So that's kind of a big show, and we see that pretty commonly in our job. But when you get to the trial and you get to the witnesses and you get to the evidence, you can get past that and see what's true and what's not true. So I don't think it's a RICO case. I think there may be a conviction on something else, but I don't think they're going to be able to prove that this was some purpose and plan and scheme that he had to do this type of conduct.
Were you surprised by anything that came out of this case?
I think just the number of witnesses that testified consistently about what was happening, whether it was consensual or not. It looks like there was a lot of people out there that may have been scared to come forward previously. And once that video came out with Cassie, it kind of opened the floodgates. But then again, we have to determine if they're being truthful. What are their motives? Are they going to write a book? Do they want to file a lawsuit? So these cases are not that cut and dry when you have this type of evidence and these type of witnesses.
And it seems like no celebrities have really come out for or against Diddy other than Kanye West. And so is it something that obviously has been done purposefully because their lawyers are telling him don't get involved, don't say anything?
Yeah, obviously Kanye's in a different group, but if I represented a celebrity that was involved in this case, I would tell them to stay away from it. It's nothing but negative publicity. If there's any indication that you're on any of the videos or we're at the freak-offs, it's going to be a problem. So I would totally stay away from this case, this trial, and everything to do with Diddy.
And how long do you think that, I know it's kind of like a toss-up, you don't know how long the jury will take to come up with their decision, but normally with these cases, how long does it take?
So we try to judge that based on how long the trial was and the number of witnesses. Jury speculation is impossible, but I would anticipate at least a couple of days for them to kind of go through the charge, go through the evidence, and figure out, what side each person is on, and to thoughtfully make a determination on what they think is the right thing to do.
And as a viewer, you're looking at all of this coverage and you're thinking, I think he's guilty, or I don't think he's guilty. He should be in jail. He shouldn't be in jail. When the jury goes to deliberate, they are looking at it and instructed to look at it in a different perspective. What is the instructions that they are given?
Yeah, so the jury can only decide this case on what was in the trial. No news reports, nothing that was not admitted into evidence. So a lot of people, and I've had cases, they've watched the news coverage and they form an opinion, but you can't really form an opinion unless you put all that aside and you only listen to the evidence in the courtroom. That's the purpose of the rules of evidence and what the judge tries to do to keep the media out. So they can only make a determination on what they heard in that courtroom through admitted evidence. If they listen to a news story or something else, it's a problem.
And so they have to come up with what answers for the judge?
So there's really two answers, guilty or not guilty. But if they can't come to a unanimous verdict for either of those, there could be a hung jury. And what will happen is typically over a period of time, they'll send a note out to the judge and say, hey, judge, we're hopelessly deadlocked. And most judges will say, okay, that's fine, but if you don't come to a conclusion in this case, it's going to be tried again at the same expense, at the same court time. So we need you to go back there and keep trying. And then at some point they may come back again and say, we're not getting along, we can't come to a decision. And then typically the defense will move for a mistrial, and it'll be up to the judge to grant that.
Do you have an educated guess as to what they may come up with?
I think that they're not going to find him guilty on the RICO charges. I think there's a possibility on the other charges. I just don't know exactly because, as I said, I wasn't there in the courtroom. But I think he's in danger of being convicted of something. But I think the biggest charge, the RICO charge, he's going to be found not guilty.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and giving your expertise.
Thank you.